I would like to, hi, I'm Vonda. I'm the manager for the Grants and Outreach Program in the Division of Parks and Recreation, and we'll have some more introductions very soon. Thank you to everyone for joining us for the rescheduled webinar for Helene Recovery Fund for Partif. After additional legal review and decisions from department management, the funding eligibility has been altered to better serve the needs of those municipalities and counties in Western North Carolina. We look forward to going through the funding opportunity with everyone today. So I'm going to go through the agenda of what we are looking for today and what you're looking for today. We'll have staff introductions following this slide. We'll have the program overview that discusses the established legislation, the grant cycle timeline, which has not changed, and eligible applicants and projects, which has changed. The application overview, we'll review application elements, and then we'll take questions from the audience. And it's our understanding that Blake has put everybody on hold to today. So we're looking forward to the questions that you have. So as we go through the presentation, make sure you jot those down, or you can place them in the chat. We will be monitoring that also. So just make sure that your question is for the larger group and not project specific. And if we have time, maybe we can dive into project specific questions if we don't answer those questions as we move along. So like I said before, my name is Vonda Martin. I'm the program manager. I am with Lily and Heaton, the state grant specialist, and you'll be hearing more from her today. Our deputy director is not attending, but his name is Dave Head, and I'm going to let Charlene introduce her team now.
Okay. And I think I saw Dave online, so.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
Even better.
Yeah, so I'm Charlene Smith. I'm the Director of Recreation Resources Service. And like Vonda said, we will be monitoring the chat. So put your questions in there and we'll make sure we get to those. And we can introduce our staff. Blake, I'll let you start.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Blake Covington. I am the RS consultant for the western part of the state. If you're looking at the map, all of those counties and communities in green. And I would imagine that most of you that are here today are in my region. So most of you, I think I know to some degree. And if I don't, I look forward to meeting and working together soon. But yeah, thanks for taking the time. I know how important this is for all of you. So good to see you.
And Trey Fouché.
Hey folks, I'm Trey Fouché. I'm the consultant for Central North, which is sort of the orange section on the screen. As it relates to this, you know, I have a fair number of counties as well: Ash, Wilkes, Iredale, Yadkin, Rowan, Allegheny. So look forward to working with y'all on this important project.
Yeah. And Terry Stowers.
Hi, I'm Terry Stowers. I am the regional representative for Central South region. It goes from Hickory to Fayetteville, and several of the western part of my region is also eligible for this funding.
Mm-hmm. Great. And Scott Payne.
Good afternoon. I'm Scott Payne. I have the blue section of the map, which is the northeast region of the state.
Yeah, and Brittany Shipp.
Hello, I'm Brittany. I am the Southeast, so I'm here to offer all the moral support because I have no projects eligible in my region, but just here to support you all and hopefully help support my colleagues through the process.
Yes, and we'll all chip it in to help wherever needed. And Brittany, you can certainly provide support because you've been through a hurricane or two, I believe. All right.
All right, thanks so much, Charlene. So I'm going to start by letting you know that the funds allocated to the Parks and Recreation Trust Fund are administered through the Partif Administration Code. The affected areas, the counties designated before, on, or after the effective date of this act under the Major Disaster Declaration for the President of the United States under the Stafford Act as a result of Hurricane Helene, affected areas for local governments. And I'm sure that y'all wanted me to read that, but the gist of this slide is we have $4.15 million to allocate per the declaration.
Yeah, it's SL 2526 became law June 27th, given the Parks and Recreation Trust Fund that $4.1 million for affected areas. The affected areas definition that Vanya read out is any counties designated as under the disaster declaration for Hurricane Helene. So there's 39 counties, and let's see. It is these 39 counties, and we will not read all of them. You can see if you're identified on there. And then here is the map of that designation. So it's any eligible projects, which is acquisition or development in one of these counties.
Yeah, so eligible applicants can apply to acquire land for parks and trails or build parks and trails for use by the public in the affected areas. And just like Pardiff, a project must be located on a single site.
That's one of the changes from the initial announcement is the eligible applicants has been broadened, eligible projects has been broadened to any project that's eligible for Pardiff funding in those affected areas.
So can you go back to the map one more time? Okay, so I want to make this as clear as possible. Any local government, which is a city, county, or town in the hashed pink area is eligible to apply for the $4.15 million. So I just want to make that clear. When we're talking about eligible applicants, we are talking about city, counties, and towns in the pink hashed area.
And public authorities authorized for recreation.
Yes, sorry, left that out. All right. And as I'm sure many of you know, there is no maximum request. Generally, it's usually $500,000 for Pardiff, but there is no maximum request for the 4.158 million dollars. But it is a dollar for dollar match.
Additionally, one of the changes is now that the funding opportunity has been opened up to all eligible applicants in the affected area. Additionally, Helene affected or damaged projects will be prioritized if they are located in the most impacted and distressed counties identified in the HUD report, which there's a little screenshot on the presentation of the counties and some partial counties by zip code designated in that report, and that have a population of 300,000 or fewer based on the 2023 county population estimate from the State Demographer's Office. For this prioritization, applicants will complete a statement that says it's for repair, replacement or construction of equipment, buildings, or natural features due to damages or effects from Hurricane Helene, and that the funds requested are not being made available through federal aid or insurance. Also, per the session law 2526, funds have to be expended or encumbered by June 30th, 2030. And should recipients receive federal aid or insurance payments for this project after the application, the grant funds should be returned. Just like Pardiff, because it is administered through the Pardiff Administrative Code, for development projects, applicants must have legal control of the park property where facilities will be located at the time of application, which for this one is January 30th, 2026. Again, all the projects have to be open and accessible to the public with no restrictions such as membership. For this grant opportunity, facilities still under the part of 25-year restriction are eligible to apply for assistance. If it's due, related to damage from Hurricane Helene. And so our timeline didn't change. It opened October 1st. We've had some revisions. The revised application packet will go out to everybody registered for this webinar and to all eligible applicants after this webinar finishes. Application deadline is January 30th. There'll be pre-award inspections between February 1st and March 20th, and selection will be at the March 27th Parks and Recreation Authority meeting. Because this is a short grant cycle and a more simplified application, there is no technical review deadline with RRS, but you should stay in touch with your RRS consultant as you put your application together so they can give you feedback between now and January 30th. And applications can be done online through SharePoint. You would request a SharePoint folder through your RRS consultant. Really do that as soon as possible. Don't wait till January 30th. I can't guarantee that technical support or IT support will be available if you are unable to access it. You can also submit a paper application either in person or via mail. It has to be postmarked or received by January 30th to be considered. And as I mentioned, the application is a little more simplified due to the short turnaround time and the intent of the grant funds. So here is a list of all the things required for the application. They're required unless it's listed as optional, which the only two optional pieces are the prioritization. You can request that or not, and if you meet the parameters and resiliency planning. The application will be available on the division's website. It's a fillable PDF. We do encourage you to use all of the templates there and not to create your own, particularly basic facts and assurances where it's signed by the chief elected official. There is a certification statement on that meets all the eligibility requirements for an application or for a grant administered through Cardiff. So please use that instead of creating your own form. There's project description that should be short, 3 to 5 sentences. It will be published and used publicly as in press releases and announcements. So keep that in mind when you're drafting your description. There's a project justification that will be used in the application evaluation and will also be provided to the authority for their review and their selection. For maps and site control, site plan, site vicinity map, and site control signed by an attorney certifying that the applicant owns the property if it's a development project. The applications will not be reviewed. They'll be deemed ineligible without the certification if it's a development project. There is a sample budget in the application that should give some guidance for how to put one together. Ineligible expenses will be removed from the budget during application evaluation, or expenses will be edited. So if your planning exceeds the allowable 20% or 200,000, whichever is less, or if your contingency exceeds the allowable 5% or 50,000, whichever is less, those amounts will be adjusted, and your grant request and match will be adjusted as well. You will be notified of these changes, but try to make your project budget as accurate as you can when you turn in your application. Matching funds must be available during the 3-year grant period, and your matching funds and grant requests should cover the total project cost. The prioritization should a project be eligible and an applicant like to seek the prioritization, it must be located in one of the HUD identified counties with a population of 300,000 or less. And there is a statement to be signed by your chief elected official should you choose to seek the prioritization. Optional for planning for scoring is resiliency planning. It's a series of questions and supporting documentation. There's some resources, including our state resiliency office, to help applicants put that part together. Then finally, we ask you to score your own application and include that self-evaluation. It is required for a complete application, and it will help our internal evaluation team go make sure we account for everything turned in the paper application. So please do that part. And now we can open it up for questions. I'm gonna stop sharing. And Charlene, if there's questions from the chat you want to go through first, or people are welcome to ask their questions out loud. Just raise your hand and unmute.
We do have one that Mary asked, if the town owns a property and can pull the property record from the Register of Deeds, why is the attorney certification needed?
Attorney certification is required under the Part of Administrative Code to demonstrate that it has been legally reviewed and certified that it is owned by the town, county, or city. So
All right. I mean, that is what the Register of Deeds is for. That is legal. Just seems like an unnecessary step, but that's what y'all require. That's what you require.
it is required in all of our grant programs, not just this one.
Yeah. Okay, and are regional councils of government eligible to apply?
No, this is, it's municipalities and counties in the affected area or public authorities authorized to purchase land or provide public recreation.
But Lillian, can a town work with the regional council of government to submit a grant?
Yes, as long as the town is the primary sponsor.
Okay, and Brian has asked if it's possible that partial amounts will be awarded. So I assume you're talking about less than you asked for?
Yeah, if we, excuse me, if we apply and with the limited funding, is it possible that they say, hey, we can't do 500,000, we could do 250,000, anything like that? Is that possible?
How the projects are selected is really at the discretion of the board. In other grant programs, yes, if they get down through what they've selected to award and there's partial funds left, they'll offer them to the next ranked project. The board will decide what process they want to follow in advance of their voting and selection in the meeting.
And we'll follow up. Typically, that has been, you still, whatever you applied for in that application,
Right.
you're still responsible for doing all of that. So if you were to get less funding, you would be overmatching or paying more, most likely.
And I think that needs to be made very clear when you're creating your project costs, because right now we don't know if partial funding will be given, and you will be responsible for fully what you ask for if partial funding is given. You, of course, if partial funding is offered, you have the option. You can always decline it.
Right. Yeah, those are good points to make.
Okay, and then we have a question about stream restoration activities. Is that an eligible expense through part of in this program? Kind of.
Yeah, so stream restoration would be considered if it is adjacent to the site and may have been a reason that the site was affected. And so that is a portion of resiliency planning that could be, that is eligible for this funding. Not usually in the Parks and Recreation Trust Fund, but just for this funding.
And I assume this would be stream restoration through a park. Just need to
Or
clarify.
by a park,
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, it would need to be adjacent in the description and justification. All of that information would need to be included as well as on your site map. Or your
Okay.
site plan.
Great. And Kevin has, if your park is on a couple of different parcels, is that a single site? Yes, as long as it's all one park and contiguous, that would be eligible. And then the question of if there are any limitations on what funds may be used as a match, and typically with part if there is no limitation, so it could be other state funds, local funds,
It's not
federal
part of.
funds.
Yeah. Just not part of.
Yeah, yeah, true.
Can we
Just not another
clarify that
part.
that would be FEMA and insurance money as well?
Yes, there are eligible matches for the project, but if you're asking for the prioritization for a project that was damaged or affected by Helene, it has to be for something that you're not getting FEMA or insurance money for. So the project itself is anything can be used to match the project, but if you're asking for prioritization, your match can't be FEMA or insurance. Or you can't be getting FEMA or insurance for those elements.
For the same site. Right, so
For the same project.
for the same project elements, yeah.
Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah, I'm still a little unclear, sorry. If FEMA's paying for 50% of my project element, will Partif cover 50% or no?
Not if
If you're
you're
not
requesting,
receiving full funding for those project elements from FEMA or insurance, then yes, it can be used to match and used in the prioritization. If you've gotten FEMA money for to replace your whole playground, then you can't ask for prioritization with Helene funds to replace that same playground. You could still use FEMA as your match to redevelop that site without the prioritization. I know it's complicated. The
Thank you.
legislation is complicated.
okay. And then Robbie asked, they've lost multiple park properties. So he wants to know if there's any recommendations for which properties they should prioritize by the amount of funding it'll take us to replace. And you can elaborate that on Robbie if I did not ask that clearly.
It just, we lost 3 parks, complete total losses. One park, just as the FEMA conversation, one park has received about $270,000 in FEMA funding and about $100,000 in insurance funding. Then the other park has received nothing. It's just sort of a riverside community center. Let's put it that way. It's been there since the 50s. We actually lost 7/10 of an acre of land off that property because the water took it away. My view is that property would probably be more eligible than the property that we received all the FEMA and other funding for. Would make more sense to me. Am I correct in thinking that?
Yeah, that's your discretion, but yes, I mean, it does make more sense to pursue the property that doesn't have FEMA as your priority application.
That's
I
all.
didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, that's great. Thank you. That's all I really want to know. Thank
Okay.
you.
Robbie, you can also put in more than one application.
That-
Obviously, that's a big ask because you have to have match for both of them. But that is an opportunity, and I would also think about what's realistic in if you are awarded, what can be done in the 3-year timeline. Also, and also which one is the priority in your community to get built back faster. So,
Great.
Thank you.
Then let's see. I think we got link. Okay. Nicole asks if will applications score lower if they apply for repair of stream bank, damaged drainage, culverts, etc., of money rather than money being spent on recreational amenities like the tennis courts and ball fields.
Yes, the points are largely for recreational facilities. That's our biggest point category, similar to regular Partif.
I would say if you can still demonstrate how those things are required to make your recreation facilities playable or people to get access to them, you can still make the case. It's not that it's not eligible.
Yeah, no, I mean, it may not score as high, but it doesn't mean it's not a valuable application.
Okay, and Mac is asking if the value of donated property may be used for a match.
Yes.
Oh, did you answer? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
donated value can be used.
Same as with part of.
Just make sure that it isn't acquired prior to going under contract if there's land that's out there looking to be donated.
Right.
If it does need to be done, acquired quickly, you can apply for a waiver of retroactivity for land acquisition.
Mhm. Okay, and Emily asked, do you expect that the funds will be oversubscribed such that projects without prioritization categories are unlikely to be selected?
I can't say for that. The Parks and Recreation Authority has discretion to select projects. They consider the score and rank of the application as one of the factors. Additionally, they look at the amount of funding available versus the amount of funding requested, the population, prior grants, administration history, distribution within the affected area.
Yeah, we really don't have any idea of how many applications will be submitted either.
It's hard to predict that.
Yeah.
Yes.
And not up to us. I mean, you know, we hope to know what the true impact is between, the true impact to Western North Carolina, but just like Robbie said, you know, we got 3 parks, and as an example, he may only turn in 1 because he has insurance and FEMA coming in for the other 2. So we really don't know what to expect, but we just provide the information organized for the authority, and the Parks and Recreation Authority just selects the projects.
And prioritized projects will score better just because there's an extra category available to them.
And I think that's all. I don't think I've missed anything else in the chat. The application, folks have asked for that, and Lillian said she will send that out to everybody that's registered. And then Blake also put the link to the to this grant funding opportunity in the chat as well. That's where it was going to be, where it will be placed. Any other questions? Let's see, if you need, Nicole asked if you need stream bank repairs, but add recreational amenities such as a public boat access. Is that allowed, or can you only apply to fix existing damage?
You can add new facilities. You can include that in your project budget. Yes, you can do new facilities like facilities were renovated, similar to regular Cardiff.
Be good. Do you have a boat? Did the boat access get washed away, Nicole? Are you at a different park than I'm thinking? Okay, are funds available for grant administration? That would be for like the planning funds that are usually allowed.
Grant cost is 20% or 200,000, whichever is less, based on the total project costs. So grant administration can be included in the planning costs, but as a separate line item within the project. Outside of that, no.
Yeah, and Duncan, it must be in the budget for it to be eligible, so make sure you include that when you write it up. Okay, if we are selected for the Helene grant, does it in any way hurt our chances to being selected for part of if we want to apply for the upcoming year also. I wouldn't think so. I mean, as long as you can't be applying for the same facilities.
Facilities. Correct.
Yeah, because you can't have overlap on what you're asking funds for each of these. So if you're doing different things, even at the same park.
Yeah, if you can manage 2 open grants at the same time,
Mhm.
you should be good.
Yeah, part of, Helene and Part of are gonna be considered independently of each other by the Parks and Recreation Authority. A Helene project would be noted in the grant history as an active project at the time Part of is under consideration, but that one doesn't impact the other.
Okay. Anything else? Blake, do you have any preferences for people to contact you by email, home phone? No, I'm just
Yeah, I mean, I feel like if we've worked together, I feel like you probably know my speed. I'm very good about email. I personally like that as my first sort of introduction with someone, but email, phone, whatever sort of works for you. The same thing I say with part of normal years, the more I know about your project, the better I can speak about it during these authority meetings or just in general. And I probably will be pretty more clear than I usually am the day or two before the application deadline. Similar to what Lillian said earlier, I'm probably not going to be able to help you that much the day of or the day before. So sort of just let me know. And I know it's usually a calmer time of year for most people. So hopefully this helps at least a little bit. I know the timeline is really crunched and you all have a lot going on in general. But yeah.
Yeah. And as a reminder, also the end of December, the university is closed most of the last 2 weeks of December. So be more difficult to get in touch with and slower to respond.
I think I can speak for Blake and,
Yeah.
and Terry, and I guess Scott has 1 or 2 counties as well. The sooner we know things that you're applying, the better you will be. Speaking for the consultants, because we need to set up SharePoint sites. So, if you haven't reached out to Blake or Terry or myself or Scott, please let us know as soon as possible if you're going to apply.
Yeah. I want to answer Doug's question. I think it was Doug. I don't know how to pronounce your last name, Doug. So I'm just going to say Doug. This is a question I get a lot too. People are like, Blake, do I apply for the Helene Recovery Fund, which is what we're talking about here, or do I apply for the regular part of cycle for the West North Carolina prioritization? Ultimately, you have to do whatever you have the capacity to do. That's my sort of first timeline. Also think about scoring. They are different score systems. So how is your project going to score during a normal part of cycle versus the Helene Recovery Fund? And again, you can also apply for the Helene Recovery Fund and you will know about that funding decision before the part of deadline. That would be a quick turnaround if you're going to work on a part of cycle application because it is much more in depth. But that is an opportunity too. It all just depends on how you think your project would go through the scoring system sort of right now. That's sort of my advice for a first step is take your project through both scoring systems right now, see how it does. And I'd be happy to do that with you if you need some assistance. But you are correct. There is a prioritization in the regular part of cycle, which is the May 1st deadline each year. So I know that can be kind of confusing for people. So hopefully that helped a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, because
In
that's
session
another.
on 25-26, there is a requirement that we prioritize projects damaged or affected by Hurricane Helene, both in the Helene Recovery Fund and in part of 25-26 this year.
But we're purposefully trying to keep those separate so that we don't create more confusion. So Helene Recovery, no match up to $4.15 million. And then Partif is regular Partif has a prioritization for Western North Carolina counties, but it is still just $500,000. So
And
a
it's
little bit of a
I was going to
difference.
say it's a smaller area too. It is not all of the same counties and locations for the prioritization. So take a look
That
at
is
that.
correct.
Talk to Blake, Trey, Terry.
Yes, yes. RS is your first
Talk
point of
about your
contact.
project. Yeah. And always helpful to discuss your project and get some ideas. Sometimes talking it out, we come up with better plans, better ideas. And Brian, you have a Morganton specific question?
I think
Spit
so.
it out, Brian.
Most of you are probably dealing, like Catawba Meadows in our soccer complex, we lost 15 fields and fencing and all that fun stuff. And we're going through the FEMA process. We've received very little insurance money, but we do not know what FEMA is going to cover. We're not thinking we're looking at $18 million to redo all those fields. And I can almost bet the FEMA is not going to give us $18 million. I guess they decided to do that and we had applied, we would just pull out or return the money if we were awarded. But I'm trying to figure out if it'd be better to break out a small portion of one of those parks to apply for it. Other than it's.
Yeah, Brian, if you've got cost estimates already at $18 million, you would probably have to phase that, right? And if you're going for regular part, if that's a lot of phasing, 18 tries, right, at $1 million, or you could do 3-4 fields and get that back up and running if you have a match. If FEMA comes through and you're saying that FEMA is for phase 2 and you come to us for phase 1, that's something that we would have both of our legal components, your local legal and our state legal, to review to see if it's eligible for a phase 2. So, really do talk to Blake and your consultant so that you can talk through how not to get so caught up in the FEMA and the signing of the attestation, right? So just be smart about how you approach something that large, so that if you do get FEMA money and you can get 5 fields built, right? And you use regular Tardif, right? So, just I would be very conscious of how you're going to phase that large of a project to be able to fund portions of it and see what you can get up and running as quickly as possible, right? So that would be my.
And
Yeah.
just to clarify, FEMA comes into play if you're seeking the prioritization. So if you're asking for your project to get those 10 priority points and you're in the HUD identified area and you have a population under 300,000, you're saying that FEMA and insurance is not paying for those elements that you're asking for in that application. FEMA can be used as a match or can pay for part of it outside of the prioritization. That's the only time that the FEMA thing comes into consideration, is if you're seeking the prioritization. So you can also use FEMA as your match and apply for new facilities. To answer Sean's question, I see, can FEMA money be used in the match portion of the grant if you're adding new items? Yes. When you do the prioritization attestation, you're attesting that you're in a HUD identified area, your population's less than 300,000, and you're not receiving FEMA insurance for this application. So that could be one application, and then your other one could be for things you are receiving FEMA for and trying to improve the site.
Clear as mud, everybody.
So, did I make it worse? Or I don't know if it's possible to make it.
We're trying, y'all.
No, y'all are doing great. Y'all are doing great. There's a lot of moving parts on this one. Yes, Sean asked about FEMA used as the match portion. I think you just answered that. His project should be under FEMA funding, but they will only cover what they lost, not additional items or improvements. So yeah, this would be the opportunity to get those additional items and improvements. So the FEMA is whatever items you're asking for in your budget, that's what is eligible. So if you're asking for these, whatever's been lost with FEMA, then that item can be a match, or that funding can be a match. I don't think I said that very clearly.
So like, for example, if you had a playground wiped out, I'm using playground because it's the easiest thing to refer to. And FEMA is gonna pay to replace that, and you're putting in an application for walkways and picnic shelter right by the playground. That's eligible for as a project and for prioritization. If you're putting in a project to replace the playground and have FEMA as your matching money, that's not eligible for prioritization because you're getting FEMA as a match, or you need FEMA money for that same element.
But it is eligible without the prioritization points.
It's eligible as a project, just not to be prioritized. Prioritization makes this a lot of fun.
Yeah, that was a late ad, it seems like.
I think it's really important that with the FEMA stuff and insurance stuff, that you spell it out in writing to your consultant. And I want to be very clear, in writing as opposed to phone conversations, so that we can see it, and then we can see what your application is, and then be able to tell you, you do qualify for prioritization, you do not qualify, you know, that sort of thing. That's going to be really important to work closely with your consultant on the FEMA insurance and prioritization points.
Yeah, thanks, Trey. And sometimes we do need to run it through the division's legal for review as well, just to confirm. Let's see. Yeah, Sean is having to replace your campground park 250,000 years ago, but it's doubled now. And then you need to add mitigation and hopefully expand the park amenities. So yeah, that's a big project. Beach Mountain, right? Seems like that was part of funded too. So yeah, let's get that one replaced.
And I guess one other question, just to clarify, Lillian, if you are under part of restriction, you can still apply for those elements for this fund, correct?
It's fun.
Well, if there are no other questions, or if you think of questions after the webinar is over, like many of the consultants have said, you know, type your project scope up, share it with them, and, you know, just allow them to try to picture what is happening so that they can be, they can offer their best technical assistance. If they get stumped or you stump them, you know, we're gonna be doing the same thing with them, talking through it so that we can provide the best technical assistance to them so that they can return that to you. So, one-time chance at a $4 million project. It doesn't mean that one project or two projects or five projects, or we have no idea what will be selected. But it's an opportunity of approximately $4 million. So we hope that this is not the last funding that we get for Helene recovery, but we also aren't privy to that information either. So please don't apply just because it's a little bit messy, because we would like to know how much more we need so that there could be some information that we could pass along as far as what was requested and what we're able to fund.
All right.
All right. On your mark, get set. No, I'm kidding. Lillian will be sharing information with you. We're delayed in getting our website update. It'll probably be the first of next week, but you'll have the latest and greatest information coming to you via email for everyone that is registered.
And then RS will continue to share with people who were not able to attend today.
Yeah, and if you think you're gonna have a project, I would go ahead and request a SharePoint folder. I'd rather have it there than to not have it there and have to drive to Raleigh by 5 p.m. on
January 30th.
January 30th. Yes,
And dropping it off with me in Asheville is not an option as well.
that's not the same. That's not the same.
Yeah, it has to be submitted to DPR, mail, in person, or SharePoint.
Yeah.
As much as we love RS, we cannot ask them to collect the official application submissions.
We cannot. Well, thanks, everybody. We appreciate everybody attending. We're super sorry for the devastation that Helene caused, and we know that $4 million isn't gonna fix it, but we want to know how we can help. And this is just the start of us learning how we can help more. Thanks so much.
Thank you.